Guns. I'm going to tell you right now, I have several.
On you?
Are you going to? No. Nice try.
Sorry,
But
Ben.
are you going to take my guns?
No, I'm not going to take your guns. The day after the Parkland shooting, my daughter, who is now a senior at Central, came to me and said that she was afraid to go to school. And honestly, I looked at her and immediately flashed back to the day she was born and how, looking at that small baby and recognizing that she's my responsibility. And I did what any good parent would do. I lied to her and told her to go to school and she'd be fine. But I remember watching her drive away, and I was.
To her. She was fine when she left, and
she was fine, but she had a right to be scared. There had been a shooting in her parking lot. This is a serious issue, and the fact that we have not been able to take more proactive measures, and that the reality is that our teenagers are being braver about these issues than we are as adults, to me, is immoral. So there are simple common sense gun safety regulations that we could be enacting now. We could enact Manchin Toomey. 86% of Republicans support background checks, mandatory waiting periods, and banning the sale of assault weapons, of weapons of war, are a great start.
okay. We'll dispute this, but real automatic rifles are already banned.
Okay.
So you can ban them twice, double it up, but they're still already banned.
But we still have people. I mean, the reality is these weapons are getting into the hands of people who shouldn't have them. And I'm not interested in jeopardizing the rights of responsible gun owners. But I think using technology, having smart technology on guns is one way that we could solve that problem. There are a lot of I come from the healthy housing world. A lot of healthy housing organizations give out gun safety locks to people, making sure that guns are locked up properly. So there are some other things that we could be doing as well.
That's what I do.
That's good.
That's what responsible gun owners do.
Right. And the problem is not the responsible gun owners.
Oh, here's an easy one. Gun control.
Yeah. So I knew that was a trick question when he said that.
What do you think?
First of all, I think it's a misnomer when people talk about assault weapons. It really is code word for semi-automatic weapons. And then we have about over 100 different types of semi-automatic weapons. I know you and I debate about AR-15s, but so we do away with the AR-15, there's still another 100 types out there. So do we want to ban all semi-automatic weapons? I don't think so. That's not. I would rather protect the law-abiding people's rights and take away rights from those who are violent, who demonstrated felony behavior.
What about the number of cartridges, and how about the magazine size? And is that out of the question in your book, or is that?
When I say it's out of the question, I just don't know if I think it's a feel-good measure that doesn't actually deliver the results. I think where we really have the need is mental health, because I think when you talk about this, the killer from Florida, I think he had 37 reports to the police. He should not have had his Second Amendment rights. Then we need to have a provision where somebody is clearly violent, they're mentally ill, that there's a due process to take away their rights. I'm more keen on those kind of avenues.
What about no fly, no buy? What about that?
I think, wasn't Ted Kennedy on that list?
Yeah, but they took him off the list.
Yeah, but my point is,
there were two Ted Kennedys.
I think as long as there's, I think it should be people on the NICS list. If you're on the NICS, well, then you shouldn't buy. I think that should be the gold standard there. But we had some holes in that. The Air Force had a felon that they did not put on that list, and he went down and killed those people down in Texas.
And you support putting those people back. Those people. I mean, that's the job of the Department of the Air Force.
Right. So we passed a law mandating. So I think I'm for the fixed NICS. I supported. I do think we need more mental health provisions out there. So I would say I do think that even if you say you change the cartridge size or the clip sizes, how many AR-15 or not, there's still 300 million guns that are in our community or communities.
Right. They're not going away.
The schools still need to be hardened. And I know that a lot of people don't like that, But we have to look at how do we make the schools more
Would
secure.
you be supportive of having a person or in a school that is trained with
Absolutely. I think that's have to be a must. Now, I initially entertained the thought of if you had a retired cop that was a school teacher.
Well, that's what they do now, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I thought about teachers initially, but I talked to all the superintendents. They beat me up on that idea. So they said, Don, we don't want teachers with any guns. This is all the superintendents. But we would like 1 or 2 people. That's their job in school. So I pivoted a little bit on that. That's okay. I respect your opinion. But what our superintendents want, they would like 1 or 2 people in a school that are armed.
I think that's right. So what about one last question on guns? What about the ability of a court, of a judge, to take a firearm from someone who has a history of abuse,
Well, I think that as long as
abusive
there's-
behavior?
If there's due process, we have that now. Felons, I think yes. If there's clear that this person has a violent tendency or has mental illness, if there's a due process way to do it, I support it. Because that's most of these killers, most of them, not all of them, the folks around them knew that they were dangerous, and so there has to be an avenue to deal with that.
Okay. All right, that's enough of gun control for veterans, national defense. I know you're supportive of the new medical center project, and we're proud of that, obviously. And I appreciate your support.
I remember being with you at the victory dinner.
I know there's a number of bills that you've passed since you've been there, and there are several on mental health that Tim Walz had a big bill that passed when I was there. But what was, to me, the Veterans Hospital, which we are now, or the medical center project that's going forward, obviously I'm very proud of the fact that it's being done, but I'm more proud of the fact that it was such a team effort.
Yeah.
And
No, you did. I know you worked hard on it.
well, we worked hard every day.
Success.
We got success, but we had success. Terry had worked on it for a number of years. Ben Nelson worked on it, and there's still maybe more work for you to do. But the concept behind that is the idea that the VA, there's certain things the VA should be doing and certain things the VA maybe shouldn't be doing. And one of the things that I learned from that experience was constructing buildings may not be their strong point.
Yeah.
So looking at the VA generally and reform, how do you see that? Is there a downsizing of the VA in the future, or where do we peel off functions? How do you see that evolving?
Well, we've had discussions on it. I'm not sure where is the long-range goal, but some of the feedback I've had from medical experts is they think the VA should specialize on injuries that are war injuries. That should be their should be their specialty, because they're dealing with combat wounds, PTS, things like that. So it seems to me that they should always have a specialty in those areas, because we do have veterans coming back that have been wounded or PTS. So and who else should have that other than the VA? The VA should be the specialist there. And then I hear that the VA does really well with the outpatient care. Where they may sometimes struggle is the routine or the normal inpatient. But I also, we have good local hospitals that we can maybe partner with that, like UNMC and Emmanuel. So there are some discussions that some of that could gravitate that way. And I haven't made my mind on that, but that's just some of the discussions out there. Where I really thought we needed some of the reforms there is, we do have to bring them into the digital age. They're mailing folders to Florida and back. And
that brings up an interesting question. That's what I saw too, was that when someone leaves the military, you would know this better than anybody probably, you leave the military, your medical records ought to move right to the VA.
Hand it over.
and there ought not to be any gap in time.
I had to copy them to give to the VA. You shouldn't have to do that.
Are they working on that? They started working on that when I was there.
They're building the exact database, so the same data system can just move it over
Is that
using
the one
data.
in San Diego, or is that somewhere?
I don't know where it's at, but it should have the same software, the same storage, so you can just move it right over to the VA and take it over, and that makes sense. But yeah, they did not. There was a wall there.
Right.
You had to make a copy. You couldn't even get your own records. You had to make a copy of it and then give it to the VA.
You
That
had
doesn't
to
make
prove
sense.
you were you, first of all.
Right. Here's another thing that we had to do too, though. It took too long to fire people that weren't performing, or if they got caught stealing. It shouldn't take 2 years to fire someone that you catch
I think
stealing.
you've addressed
We
that.
fixed that. Yes.
Okay. So defense, you've already touched on it. The budget is, what is the current? Is it 700 billion? Where are you?
For defense,
Yeah.
716. So that kept it with inflation this year. I think we're in the right spot. We cut the military 18%.
What about the that programmatic, that war fighting money? Is that in the 716 or is that on top of it?
It's not. It would be on top of it. And there's also
That's gone down?
It has gone down. There's also military construction, as you know, which is also a separate.
No comment.
But in the HASC bill or the NDAA, it's 716. And what we did is we restored 60% of the cuts from 2010. So you're not even. And I think it's in the right spot. I don't think we fight for more. I just got, let's hold it with inflation for a while and get the military healthy. I think we're in the right spot. It just takes a while.
How about two quick ones, and because you could talk all day about it, but Syria up in the northwest corner, and then in Afghanistan. We have 9,000 in Afghanistan and about 2,000 in Syria. I can't.
Yeah, mainly in the eastern part of Syria because we're working with the Kurds and the Free.
Right. But aren't we we're not up in the corner, the northwest corner as much?
No, northwest is really,
Russia.
that's where Russia and Syria and the Iranians are at. So that's more of the Shia part of Syria, and then the western part, or excuse me, the eastern part is more the Sunni area that's rebelling.
How do you see that in the next 2 years? What do you see?
I don't see a good way forward. What we needed to do is ensure ISIS didn't control any real estate, and we're not quite there. They have two little pockets of area that they still control. We want to get the leader of ISIS.
Are they in Idlib, or is that where they are?
They're fighting over that right now, the way I understand it. But there's two little pockets in the west or the eastern part of Syria that we still have to grind down and
on
knock
the border.
out.
Is that in the areas with
By
the
Iraq.
Turkish border?
More, yeah, Turkey, but also by Iraq. It's in that part of Syria. But the rest of that area, on the eastern part, is U.S. allied, and we have special forces and folks in there working with them. But on the western part, it's mainly Assad with the Russians, the Iranians. And I don't see a good way forward. How do you put this back together? This Humpty Dumpty got broke, and I'm not sure how we put this country back together, especially with Assad in power. Our main goal is to make sure ISIS doesn't control that,
Right. Well,
that
he's not
landmass.
going anywhere fast, is he?
No. And so I see a long-term problem with not it's going to have to take an agreement of some sort, but I don't see the Sunnis agreeing to make peace with Assad, who's killed 300,000 people. So I see a long-term issue that's not easily solvable. What concerning us, though, should be Iran's influence in Syria, long-term influence. And we just had the Israelis attack some Iranian targets yesterday, and the Syrians fired multiple missiles and shot down a Russian aircraft by accident. So this is a powder keg.
Right.
It could go up pretty fast.
And they're trying to do the protective zone thing,
Right.
as well. I'm not sure what our timing is like, so let's kind of shotgun a few issues. Prison reform, sentencing reform.
I support
Trying to
it
decrease, yeah.
as long as we don't release violent criminals early. But I think a lot of our criminals don't fit in that category. But when they are ready for release, we want to make sure they're ready for success. When you hear about prisoners they don't have an ID card, they don't have a place to stay, that's recipe for them to get in trouble again and go back to jail. So we want to make sure they have a halfway house or somewhere. Let's find a pathway that gives them a chance for success. I support that.
Yeah, and I know when I was there, I co-sponsored a bill. I think it was with Collins.
Yeah, Doug, yeah, he's a good friend. Yep, he's big. That's his deal.
His issue, isn't
right?
it? We had a bill on reentry.
Yeah.
And addressing housing, which is a big part of reentry. If they don't have a place to go, they're
They end up homeless a lot of times.
and then they recidivate.
Yep.
So I think Doug's a good.
Another area we got to work on is a lot of the folks in prison have a mental health issue. They're getting the medicine they need, but then when they get released, they're not, and then they fall back into the being sick, and then that's why they get back in jail again. So that's another area that we have to
Part of
find
that
a
is
way to
Medicaid
fix.
expansion. I don't want to debate
Okay.
you necessarily, but
Yeah.
I mean, part of it, there are a lot of people out there that are kind of fill in, fit in those cracks. Let's go to money and influence in politics is the next topic I was given.